This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only world of professional wrestling. Welcome to Through the Looking Glass. I am your co-host, Scott Criscuolo. Hello. We got another fun show. It's November, so you know what that means. We are going to give you alternate Battle Bulls. This guy always wonders when I'm going to do some type of alternate something wonky. Because you know what? This guy will want to do an alternate Battle Bulls episode someday. Good evening, Thunder from Down Under. Dave Hall, how are you?
Good evening, Scott. Good evening, everyone. I am doing well. It's great to be back. Yes, I think we prefer alternate Battle Bowls to alternate Super Clash 3s.
Yes, it's true.
No, it's another November, and it's great to be back, and it's great to be back with you. So, how's everything going over on your end of the world?
Well, we are in November here in the Northeast, and of course, we don't know what the temperature is. Some days it barely. I mean, for the most part, we've been hovering in the 50s. It gets a little chilly at night. We've hit some 30s. I think we could be getting our first wintry mess of the year next week for our North American Thanksgiving. That won't be fun. Yeah, I mean, the fall is good. Everything is good on this end. We're heading into the final throes of the first. I just realized this. We are, about 40-something days from the end of the first half of this decade. Fathom that, huh? We spent most of the first half of the decade with masks on. That sucked. But how are you, Dave? How are things down in your much more temperate area of the world?
Well, you'd like to think it'd be more temperate, but we're going through that stage of the year where it's cold and dreary and raining, and then the sun comes out and blasts that all away and heats everything up, and then you get a late flash storm and cool everything down again. So we're in that sort of weird time of the year where the weather's all over the place. I must admit I'm feeling a little old today because yesterday we celebrated my eldest son's 18th birthday party. So I now have a legal adult in my house, and apart from myself and my wife. So
that's right. I did see that.
That's a scary thought.
Yes, he did his. What was that? What's the equivalent of the prom? What is that senior?
He had it. Yeah, he's what we call it a Year 12 formal, but basically, yeah, the end of school sort of dance. He had that last week, and yeah, it's just it's a scary thought when your eldest child is old enough to do whatever he wants.
Well, the big thing for you, Dave, is when he decides, Dad, I want to be a wrestling podcaster. Then you could hide under your bed. So anyway, Dave, always a pleasure. One of the highlights of my month is to always spend time with you and with our listeners, because we love going through the looking glass to alternate everything and anything. So this month, of course, we're not doing Battle Bowl, I promise. Although, knowing a lot of our listeners and a lot of the listeners we've accrued over the last, 13 years, I'm sure we do have people that would love to listen to alternate realities of Battle Bowl. It's entirely possible. But no, it is November. So, of course, this month we are going to delve into a couple of categories. First thing we're going to do, Dave, you know what? You let us, you're my guy. So what would you give us the overall feel of this month? It is of course November. I think you know what we're going to be talking about. But tell us what you want to do first and how we'll proceed this evening.
Well, we're in Survivor Series month, and I think it's become a bit of a tradition on this podcast that with the Big Four, we try to keep Big Four orientated. You know, we've done our Royal Rumbles and our WrestleManias and our SummerSlams, and so November being Survivor Series, we're gonna have a two-pronged attack this episode. Firstly, we're going to do something that we've done a little bit with some of our other Big Four episodes, and that is we're going to look at what might have happened if the Survivor Series wasn't a WWF concept. What if it was a NWA WCW concept? Maybe what might have happened if we'd had some Survivor Series events in another company? So we're going to have a look at it, have a bit of a fun and look at some options there. And then we're going to look at, we've got a, with the new trend in the modern WWE of Survivor Series now being Wargames month, we're going to look at the possibility of what if Wargames had been introduced earlier than the last few years. Now, obviously, we're talking post WCW shutdown, but since WWE've taken control of that library and that concept, what if we saw some War Games earlier than we did? So I think it's going to be a bit of fun this month.
I think so too. I've got some killer War Games, thoughts, because there's a few that I think would be amazing during a time where we could have used an amazing match or two. Instead of the kind of slop that we ended up getting. But so what would you like to do first? I'll let you steer the time machine, the TARDIS, if you will.
Well, let's jump into let's jump into the world of WCW. Let's kick things off with a little bit of WCW, because I think we can move through this section reasonably briskly. And as I said, wanting to look at the idea of what if WCW was the one that invented the Survivor Series. And so I've looked at a couple of years. I've got a couple of options here of putting together some WCW Survivor Series style matches in certain years, utilizing, as we always do with events like this, looking at the roster at certain times and trying to keep as true to that roster as possible while having a bit of fun with it. So I thought we'd delve into that. Now, we've talked about Survivor Series multiple times, so we don't need to talk about our memories. We've done all that before. So I think we can sort of dive straight in. And I think when you look at WCW, the NWA WCW, I think the first year they probably had the roster size to truly utilize a Survivor Series concept is probably around 1989. I think that's when the roster was starting to grow quite significantly for, going from sort of, 20 or 25 guys regularly to a roster that's quite big and growing. And so I thought we'd have a bit of a look at 1989. I know we've had some fun with 1989 over the last couple of years. We've talked about Ricky Steamboat being world champion, and we had a great fun booking that out. And our Steamboat Great Muta Starcade match, I think, is one for the ages. We've talked about Ric Flair's time and his championship run and the Four Horsemen. But sort of this October, November 1989 time period, I mean, we both love 89 NWA WCW. We've both talked about what a great year it was. And I think it really lends itself to some unique matchups here. So how about we have a look at it? I'll throw some ideas at you, Scott, and you give me some feedback on what you think of the matches. And we can talk a little bit about what the outcome of the matches might have been, how we might have booked it out as a result. So,
Okay, sure.
All right. Now, I'm going to... it's very easy. Do we want to go as if it was a card being presented, or do you want me to start with the main event? How do you want to run this one?
Well, why don't we do the card, because we'll need to know, who's going to be in the main event. So what would the card be like overall?
All right. So our main event, obviously we have our captain, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and he is going to be joined by Sting, and they're going to be teaming up with the Midnight Express. Now, I'm going to start out right now, right at the beginning. People might say, "Why the Midnight Express?" The reality is I tried to build this card. I found it hard to fit some of the tag teams in a good place. The Midnight Express are in the middle. They were still technically faces in October, November 89. They were just about to have the final run in with the Dynamic Dudes, and that sort of thing was going to really flare up. And I was hoping to have those guys in the same match, but in the end, with how I structured this card, I needed two guys to be teaming up with Flair and Sting, and I felt that Eaton and Lane, from an in-ring perspective, probably better suited that match, because I've got some other guys I want elsewhere based on matchups. So Flair and Sting and the Midnight Express is team number one, and their opponents, captained by Terry Funk, managed by Gary Hart, and he's joined by the Great Mutar, and the rest of the JTEX Corporation stable of Buzz Sawyer and the Dragon Master. So I thought I'd keep all those guys together. So that's our main event. Our undercard, so we're going to have 4 matches all together. Our second match, Captain Lex Luger, and he's joined by the Skyscrapers and Norman the Lunatic, all managed by Teddy Long. And they're up against the team of Flying Brian Pillman, who will be captaining the team, Tom Zenk, and the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal. Our third match will see Captain Dr. Death Steve Williams, joined by Rick and Scott Steiner, and on the roster at the time, because I needed another baby face and I couldn't find many, Dirty Dick Murdoch. And they're going up against Captain Mike Rotundo, teaming with the Games Master Kevin Sullivan, and the team under the masks of Doom 1 and Doom 2. Okay. And finally, our final match, a tag team battle here. We've got the World Tag Team Champions, the Fabulous Freebirds, Michael Hayes, Jimmy Jam Garvin, teaming with the Samoan SWAT team, up against the Dynamic Dudes, Tommy Rich and Ranger Ross. As you can see, there's sort of some top-end guys work well, but there's a real drop in depth in certain areas there. So that's the card that I've put together. What are your thoughts there, Scott? What sort of strikes you? What surprises you? And what are you like sitting there going, my goodness, that is got to be the biggest pile of crap I've ever heard?
You, Dave Hall, will never put a pile of crap in front of me. How come you didn't, in an alternate universe, have Demolition here? They could have signed a contract. We'll have to do that. Demolition in WCW now. All right, I'll start from the bottom. It is funny that, because I'm actually, on one of my Network Chrono watches, I'm actually in the summer of 1989 in WWF, Crockett, and others. So I haven't quite gotten this far yet. I'm still in June. So the Skyscrapers haven't come yet. Ron Simmons just turned heel. So, but this tag team, it's funny how the tag division in WCW, I guess by the end of 89 we could call it WCW. It's amazing how the end of 89, the tag division in WCW was not that great. I didn't realize how thin it was. And they have 2 sets of belts. They still have the United States tag team title belts. I had them at the end of 89. Where I'm watching right now, it's still Eddie Gilbert and Eddie Gilbert and, is it Rick Steiner still? No. Eddie Gilbert and had
he been teaming with Ron Simmons?
No, because he turned heel. It was Eddie Gilbert. Why am I forgetting? All right, I gotta look now. Now I'm freaking. Who the heck is it? I'm trying to think who the U.S. Tag Team Champions were. I
think they were actually dormant by late 89.
Well, in early 89, let's see. Oh, okay. You're right. In May, wow, I didn't even realize that. It was Eddie Gilbert and Rick Steiner. And then in May of 89, they abandoned the titles after Eddie Gilbert and Rick Steiner split, and Rick obviously was starting a team with Scott.
Yeah.
As of May 7th, they were still champions. Okay, so they revived the titles in February of 90.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I did not know that. I'm watching my chrono like a freaking idiot. And I'm like, I haven't seen the U.S. tag belts in a while. And I'm like, yeah, they really haven't talked about them. And now I know why. They deactivated them for about 9 months and then brought them back in February of 90. And they hang around until July of 92. So, okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that. All right. So, never mind. I'm glad we talked about that. So it does seem that the tag division is a little thin at the end of 89 in WCW. Because right now, well, I mean, I guess not, because you got Midnight Express. Nah, I guess you don't.
I think the issue with the tag team division is it's unbalanced. I think that's the big issue. Not so much thin, but unbalanced, because you've got the Road Warriors clearly at the top, and you've got the Steiners coming through as the next big thing. Right. You've got the Skyscrapers being pushed to the moon. You've got the Freebirds as the tag team champions. So there's sort of your power base of the tag division. They just brought in Doom, but then you're sitting with like the Midnight Express are still around. They've been good guys. The Dynamic Dude storyline is going on. The Samoans are in, but it's sort of a little unbalanced. And I think that's the big key, that you look at the tag division and you go, there's sort of a couple of really, really strong teams, and then there's a massive drop-off in terms of where they're standing.
Yes. But you did a pretty good job here, Dave, of kind of balancing the the tag teams in certain places, and I'm okay with that. I think that's solid. I'm good with that part. And I feel like you have spread it out. It is very top heavy, but which is maybe why at the time they decided to deactivate the U.S. tag titles by this point. But they do bring them back in February of 90. That opening match, I mean, Ranger Ross, I got to be honest. I mean, it's Ranger Ross. But Ranger Ross did have a decent following on the weekend circuit. He wasn't terrible. He's the one that kind of precipitated, I think, the turn for Ron Simmons. Dynamic Dudes were solid. They were solid mid-team. They wouldn't last too much longer.
You must probably be the only person in the world that would think they're solid. I know they don't have a good reputation.
They're a team. Listen, they're a TV team. They're fine to watch. This is it for them, technically, because if I remember correctly, isn't Shane Douglas in the 90 Rumble?
Yeah, he might very well. Was it? No, it was the 91 Rumble he's in, because he joined WWF in mid 1990 and was sort of subbing for Shawn while he was out with the knee injury.
Right.
But it's around this time that either Ace or Douglas suffers I think there's an injury suffered by one of them, and they sort of, just as that final battle with Eaton with the Midnight Express starts up, it sort of stops almost as quickly as it starts.
Yes. Yeah, they did. I think the Freebirds and the Samoan SWAT team probably win this match fairly, I don't say easily, but they could very easily win this match clean and be untouched or perfect in that opener. So this next match I think would be very stiff between the Dr. Death, the Steiners, and Dick Murdoch. I think, and then you've got Rotundo's not really the hardest hitter of the bunch, but I think you could see a lot of potatoes being made there. But that one could be a lot of fun. I could see someone like a Scott Steiner, being the sole survivor, or even Dr. Death.
I think that match should probably be something where, because you've only just started the Doom Steiners storyline, you're probably going to have those two teams double each other out, double count out, double DQ, four-way battle. Ref throws them out of the match because they won't stop double teaming each other. That sort of typical scenario that you see in a lot of Survivor Series style matches when you're trying to toss very similar the Demolition Legion of Doom situation in the 1990 Survivor Series. Right,
exactly. Yep, I totally agree with you on that.
And
even like the Rockers and the Rockers and the Brainbusters.
That idea where they just brawling and not stopping. And I think you're probably going to end up with Dr. Death being the one who comes out standing tall in that battle.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be, but I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of soup bones being thrown in that one. This next match is interesting. I could see one of two things, and it involves Norman the Lunatic. I could see, say, Luger's team wins, and they treat Norman like garbage, I know I can't believe I'm using this example, but it's a lot like the AWA Team Challenge series where Jake the Milkman Milliman won the Battle Royal and Larry Zbyszko's team treats him like freaking crap. I feel that way. Like Norman could help them win the match, and Luger and the Skyscrapers treat them like crap, or Norman accidentally costs his team the match, and a Brian Pillman or a Road Warrior Hawk is the sole survivor or is the last guy standing and wins the match. So that could be very interesting. You could go either way on that, but that could be something where Norman, it starts to precipitate his face turn kind of thing,
Yeah, I think what I would see in this match, I think with where storylines were going, this to me is the opportunity to put over the Skyscrapers over the Road Warriors. I actually see this is the sort of match where I think Norman probably gets taken out very early. His stupidity, maybe even Luger and the Skyscrapers refuse to tag in. Like he just, they just don't want to have anything to do with him. He goes out early, and then I just picture Sid and Spivey running amok and just power bombing Zank, power bombing Pillman. You're in this situation where it's 3 on 2 against the Road Warriors, and as much as the Road Warriors try to battle, maybe even they get Spivey out. Maybe they do manage to get a roll up on Spivey, but I think Luger and Sid would be the survivors here. I think that you'd end with, Luger probably getting a cheap shot, taking out maybe Animal with the title belt, and then Sid, power bombing Hawk, maybe knocking him out or something like that. Really trying to make a statement that the Skyscrapers and Sid especially is the new player in town.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I think. So that could be a fun match. You could really go either way on that, to be honest. All right, the main event. the main event, obviously, we had the big match at Halloween Havoc in the Thunderdome. But we have new guys in here now. We don't have, Buzz Sawyer's a lunatic. We know that. Do you, because Flair really doesn't turn heel until probably like February or March, because he's obviously a heel when Sting beats him at the Bash. So, do you perhaps give Funk and Muda and Buzz Sawyer and Dragon Master the win? Something happens and this begins Flair's heel turn.
Well, I think I might agree with you a little bit in that by running a Survivor Series match, probably instead of Clash of Champions, what we've essentially done is you're postponing the Flair Funk final match to Starrcade. And so Flair has won at Great American Bash. Flair has won at Halloween Havoc. This is probably the instant where you need to flip the story. So I think what happens here is probably very early on, Dragon Master and Dragon Master probably gets pinned quite cleanly, probably Flair, or you could have Sting, either one. Then I think what I would probably have happen is Eaton and Lane get into a little bit of a disagreement with Cornette. You're wanting to play into the bigger picture story with the dynamic dudes. I think Eaton and Lane are going to get into a bit of an argument. Maybe Cornette, accidentally trips someone or does something, and perhaps Bobby Eaton gets rolled up. Lane's furious with what's happened, and maybe Lane walks out with Eaton. They both walk out to, he joins his teammate or helps him to the back and gets counted out. Because you need to take Eaton and Lane out of the match. I think it's going to tie into the dynamic dudes Cornette storyline. So that big picture ends up resulting in one of them being eliminated, and maybe, like I said, Stan Lane maybe helps Bobby Eaton to the back. After being hit, maybe he's been hit by Terry Funk's, or maybe he's been sprayed with the maybe Muda's got him with the spray because he was distracted by, Jim Cornette or whatever, and you go from there. Then Flair and Sting need to, they'll clear out Buzz Sawyer. You get back down to the final four, but I think in this case, maybe you can lay some foundations. Maybe Sting and Flair accidentally collide. There's some sort of miscommunication, accidentally collide. It allows Funk to roll up Flair and get a pin on Flair, which shocks everyone. And Flair's not happy with Sting. But sort of is more, it's still focused on Funk, but you've laid a foundation there. And then I think probably you need to have Muda take Sting down, so that you can set up then a Starrcade rematch with Funk versus Flair and Sting versus Muda. And so your survivors are going to be Terry Funk and Great Muda in a flip of the Halloween Havoc event.
Okay. And maybe that starts to lean into 1990 when we start seeing the slow heel, the re-heel turn of Flair. Do you think that hurts? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, do I think it hurts Flair and Sting?
Yeah, because I feel like Flair then literally flips almost twice in the span of a year. It's like Big Show. Excuse me.
I think the way they did the Flair flip back to being heel, I think did feel forced, and I did feel it hurt.
Right.
It hurt the Horsemen a little bit. I thought Flair had been such the big player that he didn't need anyone, that by just sort of Sting, you've got this title shot, we don't want you to have it, and you've got Ole and Arn back now. It just it did feel a bit forced, because we needed to find a way for Sting and Flair to be enemies again. That's what it felt like. Whereas if you do it this way, you could have Flair and Sting miscommunication, and then over the next couple of weeks, Sting can be apologizing. I didn't mean it was an accident, and Flair can accept the apology, but yet at the same time, he starts talking about how he needs people he can trust, and that becomes the catalyst for Arn coming back. I trust Arn. Arn's my guy. Excuse me. And then as you build into the growing into the Flair Sting storyline, it really comes down to Flair going, I don't trust you, Sting. You cost me a match. I don't want to work with you. And Sting, maybe, being the goody babyface, it's I'm always going to be there. And then you have another thing where he accidentally gets, someone attacks and throws Sting into Flair, but what, like Arn and Ollie Anderson see is just Sting attacking Flair, and then that just becomes the catalyst. They turn around and just beat up on Sting, and the heel turn is solidified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oof. Yeah,
we're both battling it.
I think we're choking on Ranger Ross's in his opening match here. I think that works. I think it's a good, it's a good way to, if you decide to do this as a November show leading to Starrcade, I think that's possible too. But I think it's a good push of a lot of the storylines to kind of turn the page to the next phase of storylines involving Flair and what to do with the world title as we head into 1990, which of course Flair still has. Yeah, I like that one. So just to recap, everyone, your 4 WCW Survivor Series 89 matches. The Freebirds and the Samoan SWAT team versus the Dynamic Dudes, Tommy Rich and Ranger Ross. Dr. Death Steve Williams, the Steiners, and Dirty Dick Murdoch against Mike Rotundo, Kevin Sullivan, and Doom. Lex Luger, the Skyscrapers, and Norman the Lunatic against Brian Pillman, the Z-Man, and the Road Warriors. And then the main event, Ric Flair, Sting, and the Midnight Express against Terry Funk, the Great Muta, Buzz Sawyer, and the Dragon Master. I think that's a good show. I don't have qualms on any of those. I mean, Ranger Ross is just a guy that'll eat a pin. It's kind of like when Scott Casey was in 89 or 88? I think it was 88. But overall, I like these matches, and I think it's a good page turn to get to 1990 and really push for Flair, push the Flair Sting narrative towards 1990, and obviously from the Great American Bash the following year when Sting wins his first world title. So I like that one. Very good, Dave. I enjoyed that. I like that one a lot. Good choices there, and good teams, and kind of firing up the tag division too, getting into the new year as well. Because as I mentioned, currently the U.S. tag titles are, quote, deactivated, but they reactivate them in February of 1990. So, all right, what's next?
All right, well, let's jump. We'll do a second one. Let's jump to 1998. I think 98 is custom made for a Survivor Series event with such a large roster and all sorts of factions going at it. And so I'm going to take us to 1998. We're in the midst of it, of the rise of Bill Goldberg. We've got NWOs everywhere. We've got a Wolf Pack. We've got a Raven's Flock. We've got Four Horsemen. We've got who knows what we've got around. And so let's have a look at a potential Survivor Series event. So what I looked at in this case is I thought the time of the year, Survivor Series, November, we get rid of World War III, the WCW World War III pay-per-view, and we insert a Survivor Series pay-per-view. That's our time period. So we're looking at November 1998 in WCW. And I've come up with, I've got 5 4-team matches, one of which really is just to put people on the card and is absolutely irrelevant. And the other 4, I think, are quite interesting and storyline driven. So let's start at the bottom. I'm gonna take us through from the undercard through. And the undercard, this first match is absolute cannon fodder. It really was a matter of a couple of guys that I thought would probably be on a card in 98 WCW, because you've got teams of 4 here. So I thought 5 matches of teams of 4 is what WWF like to produce. That's what we'll look to do. So our captains. So our captain of the heel team is going to be Wrath for you Americans. And his opponent is going to be Glacier, because those guys were just going at it left and right every week on
that is true
on the show. Then I looked at, so my babyface team is where the extra couple of guys came in that were getting pushed at this time, and I wanted them on the card. The heel team is sort of to give them kind of cannon fodder. So Glacier is on one team, and I've got him joined by Bobby Duncombe Jr., Van Hammer, and Conan. Now, I can't stand Conan, but Conan's needed to be separated from his Wolfpack buddies, because we're going to be dealing with them very shortly. Okay. So that's our team number 1. Now, like I said, this is really just to get guys on the card. And Roth is being joined by, I just thought I'd have some fun. I was building this card, and end up these 3 guys just were a bit of fun. I do remember them being a bit of fun at this time. Okay. And that is Alex Wright, Disco Inferno, and Tokyo Magnum, who were working together as that sort of dancing heel lunatic team at the time. So I thought, let's keep them together and let's put them in a match. That's our opening match. It isn't much, but I think it would be fun to see Alex Wright, Disco, and Tokyo dance to enter the ring and then get destroyed by everyone.
Yeah, that's definitely a Glacier, Bobby Duncombe. Wait, so who do you had? You had Glacier, Bobby Duncombe,
Van Hammer, and who else? Conan.
Oh, Van Hammer. Okay, Van Hammer. That's okay.
This is probably a match that you're going to have Conan and maybe Bobby Duncombe come out on top at the end.
Right.
As much as I hate Conan.
I never loved him either, but that's a fun little opener. It'll get the crowd fired up. Nothing. Believe it or not, Dave, I don't find really much offensive there. So I think that could be fun. I'm good with that. That's a good opener. Right. Why not? Something fun. Okay. Gives the announcers a chance to goof off and be weird, because we're obviously going to get some extremely serious matches on the back end of the show. So I'm totally good with that opener.
All right. So our second match is going to see the World Television Champion Chris Jericho as one captain. And his opposing captain is going to be the man who is returned around this time and had been in the TV title picture before he got injured, and that is Booker T. So Chris Jericho is one captain, Booker T is the other. Chris Jericho's team will include Raven, Canyon, and Ernest the Cat Miller. And Booker T will be joined by Perry Saturn, Chris Benoit, and Steve McMichael. So we've really got those workhorse mid-card TV title guys all, and some US title guys all working together here.
Well, I am blessed that we will have the great Mongo, Father, baby, in the match. I am very pleased with that. So, I think this is a chance for Chris Benoit to shine. This is a chance for Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho to shine. As a matter of fact, I think I would make them the last 2.
Yeah.
I'd make them the last 2. And you could flip a coin, honestly, who do you want to win. I personally would go with Benoit. But I guess that's, everybody's tastes. But, or how you feel in history. But I think having those guys last and let them just fire off for 7, 8, 9 minutes, I think would be killer.
Yeah.
Because the rest of these guys, Mongo, Raven, the Cat. I mean, they're all just, they're good personalities, but it's all about, I think Booker could brawl with somebody on the other side, like a Raven, and then you could focus on Booker into 1999. But I think this is a chance. No disrespect to Booker, but I think this is a chance if you're going to really elevate WCW, elevate. You know how that works, Eric Bischoff? Elevate guys. Then I think you need to have Jericho and Benoit, the last two guys.
Yeah,
my opinion, and let them go out and tear it up at the end.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good opportunity to give it. And look, you're talking at a time. I mean, Perry Saturn had a good year. I mean, he and Raven had a great feud they did back half of the year. So I think that those two in there together, that ties together. And Raven's a great worker. He always was. If he could just keep his mind clear and Booker T returning for, you've got some really good workers in that match. And even Chris Kanyon was always a solid in-ring worker. So, you've got some good, this is going to be a good workhorse match, but I think I agree. It'd be a situation where you probably have Benoit and Jericho at the end. Jericho, probably you might even have sort of Benoit and Booker as the last two on one team, Jericho left on the other. He takes out Booker, and then you let Jericho and Benoit go at the end. I think being TV champ, I probably prefer to see Jericho get some sort of cheap win. But at the same time, at that time period, you could have Jericho lose, and then the next night he could come out and go into the rule book, or have something that was that whole time period where he did the going to the rule book to hold on to his title and the whole J.J. Dillon storyline. I think you could play into that, and Jericho could have a whinge the next night and complain that he was cheated and that maybe they need a rematch or a do-over or something like that. So Jericho losing still creates a good storyline concept.
Yes. I just think it'd be a banger of a match.
So. Well, you want bangers of a match? I'm ready to give you a banger of a match. We all know. Now, when we talk about 97, 98 WCW, we've got our undercard guys, we've got our main event players, and what was the other highlight that Bischoff loved to showcase in WCW at that time period?
The Cruisers.
The Cruiserweight division. You want a banger of a match?
Oof. Oh, man.
Ready for this?
Oh, man.
Team number one is captained by at that time, Cruiserweight champion, Billy Kidman. Has to be the captain because he's the champion.
Correct.
And he's going to be joined by Rey Mysterio Jr., Dean Malenko, and Chavo, and their opponents, captained by Eddie Guerrero, and he's teaming with Juventud, Psychosis, and La Parka, which I think lays the foundation for the Latino World Order storyline that comes out very shortly in early December 1998. How's that for a match?
Holy shit. I got to be honest with you. I would probably put this match first.
Yes.
I think I would flip this match because what'll happen is you put this match first, then you put the match with Jericho and Benoit last, and then the Wrath and Glacier thing is kind of a palate cleanser before we get to the kind of the mid-upper main event stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, you put this match first, Dave, and you'll set the place on fire. I mean, it'll be fucking amazing. These guys will be flying all over the place. It's going to be ridiculous.
Absolutely.
You're going to see crazy multi-guy moves and planchas and bops off the top rope and holy crap, guys wrestling out in the aisle and oh my God. It's going to be that's good. That's outrageous. I would completely agree with you that and it's probably going to end up being the kind of based on which universe we're talking, this could end up being the swan song for the Cruiser division because by 1999, half these guys all leave and head to the head to the WWF because they're pissed off that they can't break the ceiling. Maybe this match in our universe, Dave, and maybe we could piggyback on our previous episode, which by the way is on our archive, placetobe.podbean.com. Just type through the looking glass and go through our extensive archive, or on your podcast catcher. And we can kind of piggyback that to our episode of what if WCW lasted past 2001. If you keep these cruiser guys happy and not treat them like, as Kevin Nash affectionately called them all, vanilla midgets,
yeah,
then WCW might still be around. So this is the opportunity. This is the opportunity where the cruisers can like truly shine, and proper WCW officials would push these cruiser guys to levels beyond the cruiserweight division if they so choose, and they should. So you put this to open the show, Dave, and you're in for a world of amazingness. And again, it could be something. It could be something that eventually leads the cruisers to expand and grow and move on to the next level, and WCW, perhaps survives. But boy, who would be the survivors?
Oh, look, you really, with a match like this, you could go any which way you wanted. I think if you're looking at where some of the directions had been and where they were going, I think the concept is you were just about to build into the Latino world order. So I think there would be a great opportunity here to probably, you would want to probably have Rey Mysterio probably needs to be, I'd probably look at maybe Kidman and Rey Mysterio being the last two survivors on that team, which allows Eddie and his crew to be angry at Rey for having beaten them and start that push to get him to be, we've all got to work together. You're working against us. You've cost us, money to feed our family. Who knows? Something like that. And
right. Yep.
Start that process of bringing them in. And Kidman being the cruiserweight champion, I think if he's on the team that's going to be winning, probably should be a survivor as well.
Okay. All right.
But honestly, you could have Hoovy and Psychosis. You could have Eddie win as the sole survivor. I mean, you could go any which way with that match, and I think it would be acceptable to anyone.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. And then whoever wins, whether it's the Faces or Eddie or Big Kidman or whatever, you're still looking at a great division in 1999. But you can elevate the Rays and the Kidmans to maybe TV title level. And obviously Eddie, is at another level anyway. And then the cruisers could be, you could bring in fresh cruisers and keep that going while you move up, move up the new guys. So, wow, Dave. Woo! Ooh.
All right. Yes. What a barnstorming match.
Bayfront Arena in Daytona. Is that where our show is? Or wherever that one of those four places that always did stuff. Joe Louis Arena? Or whatever you call it. Cobo Hall?
So, all right. Well, let's move on to our double main event. And I have to call it a double main event because with where the company was at this time, we've got a situation. So I'm going to lay the situation out, then I'm going to outline the matches. And the situation was very clear. You had been battling between NWO and WCW for a fair chunk of the year, or for 2 years now. And so there needs to be a WCW team versus the NWO. And we're going to get there. But at the same time, the NWO had splintered. And we now had NWO Hollywood and NWO Wolfpack. Correct. And so what we've got is a double main event. And the first half of the double main event is going to be the Wolfpack versus NWO Hollywood. Here's the teams. Wolfpack, obviously captained by Kevin Nash, and he'll be joined by Sting, Lex Luger, and Randy Savage. And they are going to be facing the Hollywood members, captained by Scott Hall and joined by the Giant, Kurt Hennig, and Scott Norton. There's your battle. The primary focus of that one is obviously the Scott Hall Kevin Nash battle, and bringing in the Wolfpack there because they were a unit. And we'll hear there's obviously more Hollywood members that have not been included, and we'll get to them in just a moment.
I know.
So
there's one big guy that wasn't included.
Yeah. So there's our first half of our double main event. Wolfpack versus Hollywood. What are your thoughts?
I love the Wolfpack team. I think clearly there's a stronger team. Who I put over, I think probably depends on our last match. I don't know if you plan on doing 50-50 booking. So I'm not exactly sure what the plan would be. But again, you've got a pretty loaded Wolfpack team. I mean, Nash, Sting, Luger, and Savage are pretty much the cream of the crop for the Wolfpack. Whereas other than maybe Hall and the Giant, well, I guess Mr. Perfect to a certain extent, but you've got kind of the back end of Hollywood. So I can't imagine Wolfpack losing this match. I just feel like they have more star power.
Yeah. And with the direction they were going with Nash, they probably would need Nash to be at least one of the survivors. Honestly, this is the sort of match where you could have all four Wolfpack members survive. And I think it'd be one of those things. I think, I could see them maybe, cleaning out Norton and Kurt Hennig pretty quick. Then you've got the Giant and Hall 4-on-2. At this point, Giant may walk away while Hall is getting beaten up by Nash. Nash powerbombs Hall and wins the match. I think that's a pretty clear-cut way to go.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, but I think that match would be. I think that match would be fun.
Yeah, and it plays in, like we said, the key storyline there was the Kevin Nash Scott Hall journey that we really was sort of climaxing in November of 98. So yeah, and it's interesting. I wasn't thinking of I haven't been thinking the 50-50 booking, how you want to book things out, but just going to go back earlier in the event. I think we've already talked about Chris Jericho could probably win. I think we might need to go back to our cruiser match, and maybe Eddie Guerrero needs to come out as the survivor there. Maybe Eddie cheats to win, and as he does, and as he's so good at, and creates the scenario where he's going to force Rey Mysterio to join him in the LWO because he beat him at Survivor Series. So I think I need to flag that, because otherwise we're going to have faces going over almost all night. So I think we rebooked those earlier matches to allow us to then head into our other main event, where we have the rest of the NWO Hollywood, captained by Hollywood Hogan himself and joined by Bret the Hitman Hart, Scott Steiner, and Stevie Ray. Yes, I know Stevie Ray. He was a member of NWO. Look, that could be Stevie Ray. It could be Vincent. It could be, you could throw any member of, it could be the Disciple. It could be anyone in that fourth spot. I put Stevie Ray in because he was sort of in a prominent role a lot in late 98. He was getting a lot of television and pay-per-view matches. So,
all right. So say it again. So the team is
Hollywood Hogan as the captain.
Okay. Yep.
Bret the Hitman Hart, Scott Steiner, and then your fourth member could be any of the remaining Hollywood members that you want, whether it be Stevie Ray, who I put there, but it could be Vincent, it could be the Disciple, it could be any of those hangers-on that just make up the fourth member. The others are probably standing at ringside anyway.
Okay.
Brian Adams, there was so many NWO.
One of those C guys. Yeah, one of those C guys. Yeah.
All right. and they're going up against Team WCW, captained by the world champion, the undefeated Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
He's joined by Diamond Dallas Page, Rick Steiner, and then your fourth member can either be, depending on the direction you want to go with things, you could either have the Warrior see out a contract and finish up because he was still there under contract, or you could have the return of the Nature Boy Ric Flair. I think either one fits the storyline of WCW versus NWO. So I probably prefer, I would lean towards Flair. I think he's a better, you're going to get a better match out of Flair. But they had put a lot of emphasis on Warrior in that sort of September, October, November time period. So if you wanted Warrior in there, you could put him in. Mm-hmm. But yes, there's our Team WCW versus Team Hollywood.
Well, I mean, you're going to get a huge pop. You are officially 1 year removed from Montreal. So Brett, they could make a big deal out of that. Eric Bischoff could screw Bret Hart, or he couldn't because he's in Hollywood. I mean, that wouldn't happen, obviously. You could put a stipulation that if Team NWO wins, Goldberg has to give Hogan a title shot at Starrcade or Super Brawl, depending on whatever your scenario is in terms of where you want to go and where the pay-per-view would be. Yeah. I can't imagine Goldberg's streak ending.
No.
Goldberg's streak ending in this match. That would be kind of nonsense. So, obviously you have to have Team Goldberg win.
Yeah.
Maybe you start. Maybe you do a Bret Hogan split, and maybe they get tired of Hogan's nonsense, and like Hall and all the guys from the other match come out, and Bret and like these guys are like, you know what? I'm done. You guys are something of that nature. And you lean it towards Goldberg, winning over Hogan, being still the face of the company, as the world champion still.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think you could do something in this match where, obviously the two workhorses in this match are your Bret Hart and DDP. So you need to keep them around for a bit. I think what you would probably do is I would have Scott Steiner get Rick Steiner out of the match. I would have him cheat, get one up on his brother. They're finally in a match together. He hides from him early, comes in, and Rick looks like he's about to finally get Scott down, and Scott cheats. He has something in his tights, pulls it out, wallops Rick Steiner. Rick's gone. Mm-hmm. Then I think I would probably have Hogan use again. We're going to do a bit of cheating here. I think Hogan could eliminate Ric Flair or the Warrior, whoever's in the match, but he could eliminate Flair, and we're down to Goldberg, DDP versus the rest. Mm-hmm. At this point, I think Bret Hart and DDP could really, really go at it. And maybe where you get into the screwed element, maybe Bret has DDP absolutely, like maybe he's got him in the sharpshooter, and it looks like DDP is about to submit. Not that he would, but he's going for the ropes or whatever. And Hogan tags in, like blind tags off Bret's back. Hogan comes in, drops the leg on the back of DDP's head, rolls him over, gets the pin, but Brett's furious. Brett's like, you've screwed me. I was about to win that. You've screwed me. And then you've got what you were saying. Then Brett could basically, I'm done. I'm not going to be screwed again. I'm out of here. So you can play into the whole he was screwed 12 months earlier storyline and play that up. And Brett walks out like, maybe Brett and Hogan start shoving. Goldberg's in the corner just watching. Brett and Hogan start shoving. The rest of the NWO come in. They're trying to separate them. Excuse me. And Hart walks out.
Right.
At which point you've got Goldberg left against Hogan, Scott, and Scott Steiner, Stevie Ray, and Goldberg just runs through each one of them. Bang, bang, bang. Spear, spear, spear. Jackhammers, and Goldberg comes out victorious.
I think Hogan is sabotaging your drink, so you can't. You could do a funny stip where. To cause tension, the winner of the match, the guy who gets the pin in the match, gets a title shot against Goldberg. Goldberg does not have to be pinned, but the guy on the winning team gets a title shot at Super Brawl. So now you have dissension on the NWO team, because there you get your, Brett's got DDP in the sharpshooter, or DDP's got maybe Goldberg. Maybe you do Goldberg because you want him to be the last guy.
Yeah.
Maybe you do Goldberg in the sharpshooter. Well, no, because you don't want the undefeated streak. See, here's where the undefeated streak becomes a problem.
It does.
Because you want Hogan to win the match because you want Brett to be pissed off. So, yeah, maybe you don't put the title shot in there because that could be a mess. Or you ready for this? Brett has DDP in the sharpshooter. Okay. Hogan tags himself in, hits the leg drop, pins DDP. Brett looks at him and goes, "What the fuck, dude?" He walks out. Hogan's standing there. Meanwhile, behind Hogan, somebody's ready to hit a spear.
Oh.
Hogan turns around, gets speared, gets jackhammered. Good night. Brett's like, tough shit. Walks out.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
I think that works out better. And then you could get a title shot with Goldberg. You could book something else down the line. That's not a big deal. But I think that's where we do, because if we're really going to use Brett to his full capacity, we got to do better than him being Hogan's lackey. So I think something like that, where he's got DDP in the sharpshooter, he's about to eliminate another guy. He took care of, maybe Brett could be the workhorse. Brett takes out Rick Steiner. Maybe he gets Flair. Maybe him and Flair brawl, and Flair, Brett gets Flair with with something and gets the pin. So Brett gets the first two eliminated. He's about to eliminate DDP. Hogan can't take the fact that he's not getting any shine. Tags himself in, leg drops DDP, gets the pin, and Brett's looking at him like, "What the frig?" And Brett's like, "You know what? I guess you don't need my help. See ya." Brett walks out of the ring, lets himself get counted out. Hogan's like, "Are you serious? You're a WO, brother." Meanwhile, somebody's standing in the back, salivating, frothing, ready to uncoil the spear.
Yeah.
Hogan turns around, Goldberg snaps him in half, hits the jackhammer, good night. And Brett's standing there going, you asshole, and walks off.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I like that. That's sensational. You've nailed the finish to that pay-per-view. That is just brilliant.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I think that I love your team setup. You help me with that, because I think we need to focus, if we're going to go in this direction, in the direction that we're talking about. I think we really need to focus that Brett there's a whole reason that this whole year that you've had Brett in WCW, you want to make him look like a stud. So what a perfect way to do that than to have him beat the piss as a heel out of the WCW guys in the NWO. And then Hogan, of course, like, I can't stand not being the man here. Who's this greaseball taking my slot? He's I remember him in WWF. He was just a tag team low mid-carder. He's not taking my shine. So I think it's perfect. And I think you elevate, because eventually I do think that eventually Goldberg would have to lose, obviously. Because I think you could do a build to Hogan. You keep Hogan a heel longer in a roundabout way, and you could build to maybe Hogan and Brett at, say, Starrcade 99. Something like that. You give Brett something legit, something legit.
Yeah.
I think that works out perfectly. I think that'll work out perfectly. So, good setup, Dave. You tossed me a softball. That was easy to do. That was easy. And I want to see that cruiser match beat. And listen, we've booked it. Yes, we know how the show needed to be booked that way anyway. But we may have put on a better Survivor Series 98 in WCW than WWF did. Because that tournament is the drizzling shits. But so yeah,
that's good.
All right.
Well, there we go.
Right.
There's WCW Survivor Series. We hope you have appreciated that part of this episode. And give us some feedback. Drop us a line. Let us know. Maybe you would have had the matches go a different way. We'd love to know what your thoughts are, and maybe how you might have put some of those teams together. That's always good fun too. So drop us a line. So let's move on to the second part. And as I said earlier, the second part is going to have a bit of a look at War Games. Now, we haven't done that yet, Scott. We have not touched on War Games. And
we haven't.
This, I think, is going to be a bit of fun. Now, War Games is becoming a staple of the WWE calendar now. It's becoming the annual big match at the Survivor Series over the last few years, and that's I must admit, I like it. I always liked War Games. The very first War Games I saw was the Great American Bash in '89. That's the first time I saw a War Games match. I've got the War Games DVD. I've got I love all the War Games matches from WCW. I think it was always a great concept, a great event. I don't want to spend too much time talking about how awesome it is. I do have concerns that it seems that WWE have got themselves fixated on it has to be 5 against 5. And obviously, as we're recording this, the 2024 Survivor Series, the Bloodline versus Bloodline match has not taken place yet. But where they're at in the storyline build, they had it perfect. They had the 2 Bloodlines set to go, but they would both want to add a 5th member. And I struggled there. I don't think it's needed. I think they could just do Bloodline versus Bloodline, 4-on-4, Roman, the Usos, and Sammy versus Solo and his crew. I think it would work perfectly.
I agree.
For some reason, WWE wanted to be 5-on-5. But what we're looking at is, well, WWF bought WCW out in 2001. They own the rights to the War Games match. So what if prior to when War Games has become a recent fixture, WWE made use of the concept at an earlier date. What if there was a War Games match in the early 2000s or the mid 2010s? Who might have been involved and what might they have looked like? How might those matches have gone? And it could be 4-on-4 or 5-on-5. It could be either, but let's have a think. I think there's a couple of ideas we've been tossing this around, and so Scott, I'm going to throw it to you. War Games, WWE, what have you got for us?
Well, I have two to start. I you knew I was going to do this.
Of course.
I would love how about a War Games? Ready for this? How about a War Games at Madison Square Garden in 1985? How about Hulk Hogan, Tito Santana, the Junkyard Dog, and need another baby face. Oh, Ricky Steamboat.
Are you wanting a friend, or are you wanting a good worker?
Well, I decided to do a good worker because I'm going to do Ricky Steamboat. And on the other side, Roddy Piper. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Scratch that. We'll do 5-on-5 because I have to add Orndorff to the heel babyface side.
Yep.
So Hogan, JYD, Tito Santana, Paul Orndorff, and Ricky Steamboat against Roddy Piper, Bob Orton, Greg Valentine, Randy Savage, and say, oh, well, he did come in late 85. Terry Funk.
Oh, gee.
What kind of batshit nonsense would that match be? Come on, Dave. The Garden would lose it.
Oh, my goodness.
Lose it. The Garden would lose it.
It just reeks of unbelievable star power, that match. And
Holy
my
crap.
goodness.
Lose it. Savage trying to jump off the top of the sail. I mean, it'd be losing it. Losing it. Oh, my God. Losing it. Love it. All right. That was my little cute fun one. All right. I have one a little more recent. What do you think of this? Survivor Series 2003.
Yep.
Okay. We kind of blend in a couple of matches. We still do Team Bischoff versus Team Austin. However, Team Bischoff will be the full evolution. Triple H, Ric Flair, Randy Orton, Batista, and need one more heel. Kane. And on the babyface side, Shawn Michaels, Booker T, RVD, Chris Jericho. Had he turned face at that point? No, that's not until 2004. Booker T, Shawn Michaels, RVD. I had one more heel, and now I had one more face, and it just lost my head. Shit. I had a baby face, and it went right out of my head. I'll think of it. But the captain is the world heavyweight champion, Goldberg. So Goldberg's going to be two two team captains on our night, Dave.
Yep.
And you could do it so, Goldberg spears Triple H through the door, kind of thing, I'm trying to think who that fifth face would be. Shoot.
Would it be someone like in 2003? Probably, you probably have Goldust.
Yeah. Yeah, probably, because he could work because he was with
So
Booker.
that was around the time he and Booker were working together.
Yeah. That's true. All right, so stick Gold. So Goldberg, Goldust, Shawn Michaels, RVD, and Booker T against Triple H, Ric Flair, Randy Orton, Batista, and Kane. Now, I just realized if you really want to get stupid, you could put Shane McMahon there if we're continuing that feud. that Kane Shane feud. He did almost have his nuts zapped.
We don't want Shane. We don't want Shane in there.
No, because he'll make it about himself. So
that's right. I like this. I like this match. I think that it, in the time it fits well. It fits into the idea of Evolution trying to be on top, and Kane had gone heel, and a lot of the guys on the other side of the coin had a lot of issues with Evolution. Goldberg and HBK, RVD at the Elimination Chamber, Booker T and Goldust had sort of issues with Flair and Batista, so it all ties together really well. I think that's a really good match. So if we look at this match and we want to look at structure, you're obviously going to need to start the match with Orton, and probably, well, depending on how you want the match to go, you either need to start with RVD or HBK, because you need two guys that can go the distance.
Right. Yeah. You need the money. You need the money guys there. Yeah, I agree.
And I think I'd probably lean towards putting HBK in, just because it allows you then to play into the legend killer gimmick that Orton was building. You just start off against the legend of HBK. So Orton and HBK would start off. They're going to go at it. It's typical Survivor Series. So the buzzer goes, and I think at this point you want to keep the focus on Evolution to start with. So you're probably going to send in Batista, the big man. Batista's going to come out, and clearly they're going to go to town on HBK, work him over. HBK might even get a couple of nice sweet chin musics to just slow them down a fraction. So who would you bring in next for Team Goldberg? Are you bringing in RVD second, or would you look at Booker T or Goldust coming in next?
I think I'd bring Booker in next.
Okay.
I think I'd bring Booker in next. Yep.
Yeah. So we even it up. Booker comes in. We get. It's all typical Wargames structure. The heels are going to get the lead. The baby faces are going to come back. Could probably picture at this point either Orton or HBK has gone into the mesh, and have come away with a bit of trickle coming down the face. It's 2003. We can get away with blood. It's not. We're not super PG yet. I think the Huda goes. I think this is probably where you bring Kane into the mix. Kane's going to need to come in the middle, because I think you need to be, obviously Flair's a bit older, and Triple H being the captain and who he was, you want to be bringing them at the back end of the match. So I think Kane's going to come in the middle here. Unleashes Hellfire and Brimstone, causes chaos, and maybe look at bringing in. Well, I think I'd look at probably bringing in Goldust. I just think, he's got he can work, and he knows the Wargames style. So I think you might bring Goldust in there next.
Yep. I'm in agreement so far on everything. Yep.
Yeah. He comes in, Goldust can come in, even it up, it doesn't get nothing over the top. So here's the question I'm going to throw to you as booker of this fantastic match, Scott. Yes. Who comes in at 4 for Team Evolution? Are you going to leave Hunter till last, or are you going to save the old man till last?
I think Flair goes in for his guy. I think you put Flair in next and you save Triple H for last.
All right.
Protecting the investment. Yes.
So Flair comes in. I think being the dirtiest player in the game, he brings in hardware. He's either got brass knucks, a metal pole, or he sneaks a chair in with him. Something that gives the heels that big advantage. They're hitting people with chairs. They're walloping them, whacking them. The countdown finishes. RVD comes in, and I think we have a chair in the ring because that allows RVD to go nuts. We see, where the one, I know he did it more in ECW, but the move where he sort of throws the chair at a guy and does the spin kick into the chair. You might have him hit Orton with that, and then the chair in the corner, and he goes coast to coast, the Van Daminator.
Yep.
He gets one of those in there. It's all sort of going their way, and of course the buzzer goes. Hunter comes in. I think Hunter comes down, enters the ring, padlocks the door shut, brings his own chain, padlocks the door shut, and Evolution go to town. They're working over HBK. He's a bloody mess. Goldust has probably sprung a leak as well at this point. They're really laying in. Flair's got to get some juice as well. It wouldn't be a War Games match without Flair coming out with blood. Everyone's chanting Goldberg. Everyone's waiting for it to come in. The buzzer sounds. Goldberg comes down, but of course, the ref can't open the cage because it's been chained shut.
Yes.
So Goldberg's pulling on the cage while Evolution. At this point, Evolution have clearly gained the advantage. They've got the chair. They're walloping everyone. Hunter's pedigreeing people left and right. And JR's talking about what's Goldberg going to do. Of course, we get the Superman energy. Goldberg breaks the door, breaks the chain open, pulls the door off its hinges or something, opens the door. He comes in, and it's Spearathon. He lays everyone out with spears. And at this point, you've got to now say, War Games doesn't end with a spear. You need a submission. And so perhaps at this point, HBK goes over, and you know what? I don't think it's unreasonable for HBK to get something on Flair. Maybe even the figure 4 leg lock on Flair. While Goldberg has been spearing everyone, HBK locks the old man in the figure 4, forcing Flair to tap out and giving the baby faces the victory in War Games.
Mm-hmm.
How does that sit?
I think that sounds great. I think you definitely need to find a way to dramatize, Goldberg's moves. The spear, the jackhammer, that kind of thing. You're continuing the feud of Triple H and Goldberg over the World Heavyweight title, and that finally the baby faces have backup rather than Evolution only having the backup. So I think that's the key thing for that match. Is Evolution protecting Triple H while the baby faces not protecting Goldberg, but making sure he doesn't get screwed. But yeah, I think that will be very, very gory. I think Shawn does what Shawn does best, get the crap kicked out of him. And you're continuing to try and protect Goldberg while Evolution is protecting Triple H, and of course they'll have their match down the line again. I love it. I think it's great. It's a great I just wanted something where Evolution gets their Horseman type moment by being in a War Games match. I think it had to happen. And it needs to be treated the same as it was back in the day. The only difference here is, of course, in the timeline, Goldberg is the heavyweight champion and not Triple H. Maybe instead of the Elimination Chamber, I mean, not that we'll book another one, but could have done a War Games in 2002 while Triple H was still champion. I would have definitely rejiggered the 2004 one, but we can talk about that another day. But I think definitely, and then you got Austin, stunning guys and messing around. Remember him and Bischoff are on the outside because I still like that. Austin, his spot as co-GM is on the line, that kind of thing. So, I think that could be a fun, athletic yet violent match from beginning to end. And I think you have the right guys in there. You have a mix of work rate guys and power guys, and that could be fun to watch. I think that could be fun to watch.
All right. Yeah.
So nicely done, Dave. Nicely done. I think you did a good job of putting my studs to good use. I think you did a good job. What else we have?
All right. Well, I've got a War Games match for you.
Okay.
And I think you might enjoy this one as well. I thought I'd bring your studs back together because I want to jump to 2014.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to have a War Games match a little early. It's not going to be at Survivor Series. We're actually going to have War Games potentially at either Backlash or the pay-per-view after Backlash in 2014. Because our War Games match in 2014 is going to see the reunified Evolution, captained by Triple H, joined by Randy Orton and Batista, and in a 4-on-4 War Games match, joined probably by Kane. Kane keeps coming up. How does this?
He does.
But probably joined by Kane because he had the link to Hunter's Authority storyline.
Right.
He'd been the enforcer for the Authority since late 2013. So, and they're going to go up against the team captained by the World Heavyweight Champion Daniel Bryan. He's going to be joined by the Shield, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose. Bring it on. Let them go to war. This is going to be a barn burner. I think we probably have Ambrose start the match against Orton again when the two real workhorses are going to go, and they're going to go at it, and they're going to pound away. Then I think Kane will come in second. Because we're going to protect Batista a little bit because he's more of the movie star now.
Correct.
So Kane will come in second. As they get a bit of control over Ambrose. The buzzer sounds. Seth comes in. We've got Seth Rollins in there. It's all going to town, evened up. Then the buzzer hits again, and Hunter's going to come in third as the boss. He's going to come in to take control. They get a bit going. They get a bit that power. Our third member for team Daniel Bryan is going to be Roman Reigns. He comes in. He starts spearing guys. We get a triple power bomb, probably on Randy Orton. Crowd are going crazy. The buzzer hits. Out comes the movie star Batista. They're in there. They're going to town. Heels got. Now we've kept Daniel Bryan to last because his neck has started to bother him around this time. We need to protect him a little bit physically. That's why he's not in the War Games the whole match. And we're going to get the massive pop when he comes out because the crowd at this point are chanting Daniel Bryan. They're chanting yes. They want him. They want him. I think Batista, I think Evolution and Kane, they have got all of the Shield members down. They're beating them up. The buzzer sounds, the music hits, and the crowd go apeshit. Out comes Daniel Bryan, dancing out with his yes chants as he bounds his way to the ring, chanting yes, enters the ring, and it's just, they've got themselves back on top. Daniel Bryan's causing havoc. He's got Hunter down, Batista down, Orton down. Everything looks like it's gone rosy when Daniel Bryan turns around and gets absolutely leveled by Seth Rollins.
So that's where you do the heel turn.
You do the heel turn at War Games. Seth levels Daniel Bryan. At this point, Evolution grab Roman and Ambrose, and they tie him to the ropes. They're holding him back as Seth lays a beating on on Daniel Bryan under Hunter's direction, and then Hunter orders him to put Daniel Bryan in. It might be in some sort of, it might be a camel clutch style maneuver, or it might even be a crossface or whatever. But Daniel Bryan is out cold at this point. The ref comes in. He's got to call the match, and Evolution win the match, win War Games in 2014 because Seth Rollins has turned his back on the Shield and has joined Triple H's authority.
Yeah, I like that. I like putting the Rollins heel turn there. I think that could be fun. I enjoy that. I think that would be good. I was in our alternate universe, Dave. I almost kind of wanted Punk somewhere in that match, and that he sticks around a little deeper.
I would have loved. Yes, I would have loved to have put Punk in there. My thought was if he'd stuck around, Punk could be the fifth member, and you probably have to have the Big Show on Team Evolution.
Right.
So,
right.
What's there's your trade-off. If you keep Punk, unfortunately, you're probably going to get stuck with Big Show.
Oh well. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I dig that. Evolution is because just like the Four Horsemen in the 80s, Evolution's the perfect War Games team, Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that could be fun. What about a War Games match in like 74? What about a Bruno? No, I'm only kidding. That'd be interesting though. Bruno leading a War Games team. I don't think
Bruno and Pedro on one team, and the entire heel roster on the other team.
Exactly. Oh God, I don't know if wrestling fans in the mid 70s could handle a War Games match. I think they'd lose their minds. I don't think they know what to do. Oh God. Yeah, I think we had a great. I think that's a great story there, leading to the Seth Rollins heel turn, which we would eventually, of course, get. So, yeah, well done, Dave. I approve. You get the build to, in our alternate universe here through the Looking Glass, Daniel Bryan does not get hurt, and he's sticking around, throughout the year. He's still he's still the undisputed world heavyweight champion. Evolution's trying to go after him, and now Seth Rollins is trying to go after him. Yeah. I think that's I think it's a good jumping off point that we would, that could lead us to other stuff down the line.
Yeah.
And perhaps, Dave, if we have, War Games earlier in the decade, then maybe we would never need a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, because that would be stupid.
Oh,
So,
yes.
We obviously would still need a Hell in a Cell match, but we wouldn't need a pay-per-view where there's like 3 of them. That's crazy.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right.
That's crazy talk. Well, I hope everyone. Was there any others that you had in your mind? We probably could do more of those down the line.
I think it's one we could do. We could play around with in the future and come up with a couple more. Yes.
Yeah, I definitely want us to. I really do think, Dave, we need to come up with some 80s War Games in WWF. I think that's my new thing now. I really
80s and 90s.
I really loved my November 85 War Games match with all those guys, and because those guys, particularly Piper, would drive the Garden like through the roof. I mean, through the roof. So I think that's something to talk about for
you want to take one into the Attitude Era. Can you imagine a War Games between the Nation and DX?
Oh my God,
that'd set the place on fire.
Or the Corporation, and Vince is the 5th guy against a team, and Austin's the 5th guy.
Yeah,
that would be fun. So yeah, I think we're going to somewhere down the line we will re-entertain this topic for future episode, because I think there's more we can we can cultivate with that one. Dave, you're the greatest. Always a pleasure. What do you got going on? Anything?
We look, it's more of the usual. You can catch some of the other stuff that I work on is Chronoso over on the North-South Connection feed, and we're just we're starting the build between Royal Rumble 1990 and WrestleMania 6. We're going to be doing a series of shows cataloging the Saturday night's main events, key matches from superstars, storyline plots. That's all going to be coming up over the next couple of months. So keep your eye out for those. They're going to start dropping very shortly.
Well, of course, here we got all the great stuff here on the PTB Wrestling Network, including all the great shows by my man Luke Jennings across the pond. Hope you are enjoying. Yesterday, he dropped his official premiere episode of Crossing the Mid-Atlantic, where a UK guy talks about the history of Mid-Atlantic and all the great stuff going all the way back to the early 80s. So check that out. Of course, his usual shows, Memphis Continental Wrestling Cast, the Monday Night Project, and Hamburg All-Stars, and and all that stuff. So a lot of fun. Coming up later this month, actually, as a matter of fact, next week, if you're hearing this as it drops on Wednesday, next week, the November episode of Wrestle Tracks. It's funny. Greg and I kind of can predict a lot of these polls. We kind of know what you guys all like, because this month's poll, I specifically did it. We put on this month's ballot. We did a WWF show, a WCW or an ECW show, and a TNA show. And sure enough, what won? The WWF show. What a shock. So this month's Wrestle Tracks, we will be going back to Survivor Series 1991. So that'll be a lot of fun. One of my favorites.
That's a good card. That's an enjoyable card. I think it's underrated. I think I
agree.
I think the time period was the roster was in a bit of change and a bit of as they were starting to change directions. But I think that's a good show.
Yeah, I think so too. Now December for both these shows. Let's look ahead, everybody. December for both these shows, Through the Looking Glass and Wrestle Tracks, you are in control. So this December will be our next mailbag month. So email me, maineventpoint@gmail.com, we'll post something on the Place to Be page, and give us some of your Through the Looking Glass scenarios you'd like Dave and I to entertain and to journey. We'll have some fun with it for the month of December. And for Wrestle Tracks, as we talked about on the show last month, we will ask you to give us options for a ballot to put together for the month of December. So honestly, the only prerequisite is it needs to be a show that took place in the month of December. It's pretty much it. We'll do our best to find it. It could be WWF, WCW, ECW, TNA, ROH. I wouldn't go crazy with AEW because it's hard to get AEW classic shows unless somebody uploads it on YouTube. And build a ballot for us. So, anyway, we hope you enjoyed.
I think we can have some fun with that one. I'm picturing it already. Super Clash 3,
you, Dave.
Super Clash 3.
Super Clash 3. That's not in December.
Yes, it was. It was December 13th, 1988.
Damn it. It really was, wasn't it? Oh, crap.
It was.
Oh, boy. Oh, that one. No, we did that already. I'm not doing that again. No, we're not doing that. No way. Nope. No way.
But we're looking forward. Get your ideas in for Through the Looking Glass. We love our Christmas present opening episode. We love to get your ideas and your topics. Maybe steer clear of what if Mabel beat Diesel for the world title in 1995. I'm not sure we want to go down that path, but we really love you guys to just throw out some thoughts and give us a couple of ones that we can, knock over in sort of, 10 or so minutes. We can have a bit of fun with it.
Yep, absolutely. So, all right. Well, for all those in North America, have a happy Thanksgiving. Dave, have a great rest of your month of November.
Yeah.
And everyone, enjoy the turkey, enjoy the football, and we will talk to you into December through the Looking Glass.